What's cracking, everybody? Zero Felros here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the best, if not the best, save swaps in this entire Spring Cup meta. That's going to be Triple Legacy Seaking. This thing is an ace at pulling out the Ferrothorn, which, if you were paying attention to my meta-analysis video of the Spring Cup, is one of the only things that can beat Tentacruel when the two shields going straight acid spray. The other thing is Lantern, and I did some digging, and I think that Lantern actually has to get a bait correctly in order to beat Tentacruel going straight acid spray. So even then, that's not even a for sure thing. But I mean, there's also like Swampert and stuff too, but no one's really playing Swampert. I've seen a couple Quagsires, but anyway, Ferrothorn in the lead. Initially was going to go with Abomasnow here, but it just kind of pivoted to Ferrothorn, and it worked out real well. I'm going to see why. Because Ferrothorn basically needs to be on every team in order to beat the Tentacruel that is also on every team, so it's just a matter of figuring out how to align. But let's get into the battles here real quick and see just what this team is about. Now, of course, we hit like the most boring lead ever. Here's the thing, though. If you hit a Ferrothorn lead with this team, you absolutely have to stay in and whittle it down, which sucks. Because that means that, you know, if there's a Tentacruel on their side, your Ferrothorn's going to have to avoid it. But at the same time, if their Ferrothorn's off the board, and this is what I've really taken note of in this meta, if the opponent's Ferrothorn is off the board, they don't have a hard answer to Tentacruel anymore. I mean, you know, think about it. If the opponent's running Tentacruel, or if they're running Tentacruel in the lead, right, you're going to catch it. If they're running it in the back, I mean, that's all there is to it, man. And even then, the Ferrothorn, like, for your own Tentacruel, see, like, there's their Tentacruel. Now, here's why I like Seaking so much, is because it has a coverage move for basically everything. Poison Jab for the grasses, Icy Wind for the grass, and Drill Run for basically everything else. My opponent keeps going, and I'm going to bait them with an Icy Wind here because I figure they're probably going to shield this as they are low enough, and they do, and I get an attack drop, which is also really nice. If they're not running a Sludge Wave, I'm good. But they're running Sludge Wave, so get wrecked, Seaking, poor thing. But I can safely come in here and start farming now with my own Ferrothorn. I farm up to a move, I come in with my Tentacruel to eat the energy and save the Power Whip on my Ferrothorn. Opponent's going to throw their Sludge Wave. They're going to end up coming in now with a Walrein, which I immediately go for Acid Spray. I have no reason to go for a Scald as it's resisted. And I would rather start to really lower the defenses and add up how much damage I'm doing with my Poison Jabs, because my opponent's going to have to go all the way up to an Earthquake here. And they are basically not going to be able to get there before I get to the second Acid Spray. And look at how much damage that my fast moves are doing. It's like, just here you go, take it. Because at this point, if I can farm down this Walrein, I can get to 2 Power Whips and take out the opposing Tentacruel pretty easily with that. And look how much damage the Bullet Seeds are doing. Anyway, I got 2 Power Whips and I got them locked and loaded. But I do need to keep myself aware that there is still, I believe their Ferrothorn is still in the back. So I'm going to launch a Power Whip no matter what it comes in. Remember that their Tentacruel threw a move and then left. So what I need to do here is I need to make sure that I leave with enough energy to get to the next Power Whip before my opponent can get to it and move. So that means that if I leave with 3 Bullet Seeds shy of the next Power Whip, they can only get 5 Poison Jabs in, which means they're not going to be able to even get to the Scald or Acid Spray. So we're going to be able to take this game very calculated, but close nonetheless. Well played to my opponent. But anyway, so about team comps, right? See another Ferrothorn. Perfect time to talk about Ferrothorn because this is a very boring lead matchup. If their Ferrothorn is in the lead, you whittle it down, you play it out, because that means that there's no hard answer to your Tentacruel in the back. If their Ferrothorn is like sitting in the back somewhere, typically you're going to have something that you need to save swap out of, right? So if they have a Ferrothorn in the back, maybe that means that they've got Tentacruel in the lead. Maybe that means that they've got something that's essentially weak to Ferrothorn, right? Or maybe they have something else. I mean, it's basically usually going to be, you know, water double grass or grass double water. That's essentially been this entire meta so far in my experience. But Seaking is here as the safe swap to lure out those Ferrothorns. And there are going to be a few, so you're going to see exactly how those work. I'm staying here because, again, this is basically where I want to spend my Ferrothorn. Considering they only do resisted damage. And so once my opponent spent all their energy, I'm going to come up with my Seaking and get a farm down, but they get to a move just before I'm able to do that. I had one more move than I thought they did. So that means that now my Seaking is going to come in, and it's basically drawing the Ferrothorn back out. But because they just have enough, I think, for a Power Whip here, I should be able to go for an Icy Wind. And having that Icy Wind debuff is very, very essential in the Ferrothorn mirror that I'm about to deal with, or the fact that my Tentacruel can come in and farm it down from this range. I'm saving my shield here. No reason for me to have it here, or no reason for me to spend it. I'm going to come in with my Tentacruel, and they come in with a Wheezing. And now I have to play very carefully, because my opponent could easily take out my Ferrothorn however they like. They're running Overheat for sure. That's not a question. I'm not going to go for Acid Spray here, because that means that I'm basically going to have to, you know, okay, well, great. If they shield, cool. If not, shoot. So I'm going to go for Scald first, and then I'm going to go for Acid Spray afterwards. My opponent's going to continue to go for Brutal Swing, as that's the non-resistant move. That's the neutral damage that they're going to be able to put out. The Fairy Winds are barely touching Tentacruel due to its poison typing, and they no shield. They no shield the Acid Spray. Oh, my opponent is absolutely a champion. But they go for the Overheat, which completely just claps my Ferrothorn out of existence. And I can't remember if that was a calculated catch or if that was just a... You know what, I'm going to go for it. But anyway, so my opponent does get to a move here right before going down. Their Ferrothorn is going to get a power up, force my final shield. But I could just hopefully try and farm down their Wheezing before they get to a move and being able to get there, and that's going to be a win for this team. All right, so this is a couple 4-1 sets, by the way. The team was super solid, like right out the gate in this cup. I've had two teams that go one off kind of well, and only one of them, this is the one that was mine. I had actually used the House Stark Legend team. And I had played that. So the only difference in the play style here is if you see a Trevenant lead, you save swap into the Tentacruel. That's the reason why I do that, is because that way they can't just throw a Seed Bomb and force me to shield or take out almost my entire Seaking. I don't want to have to deal with that situation. So I come in with the Tentacruel instead. Now my opponent stays in, throws a Shadow Ball, and that's what most of them usually do with the Trevenants, and then they swap in some counter after they've taken your shield. But the Pelipper is going to come in, and the Pelipper's already lost like all of its health. I'm going to call a Weather Ball here, but my opponent goes for the Hurricane and takes out my Tentacruel. Just as they should. I mean, you don't want to bait there. That's basically just asking for it. But I'm going to go for some power-ups on my Ferrothorn. Trying to throw with good timing, because I know they have to go for a Hurricane in order to take me out. And they shield trying to get to that Hurricane. So I shield this in kind, and they throw the Hurricane. So now I am shields down, and my opponent's got their Trevenant. I'm going to throw a Power Whip at it just to chip it down so that my Seaking can come farm it down. And I know that my opponent is low enough with their Pelipper, but I don't know what they have in the back. And we're going to find out that they have an Abomasnow in the back, and shields up, this is normally great for me, but shields down, this is a nightmare, because my Seaking basically just gets one shot by an Energy Ball here. And then my opponent, you know, they can just Weather Ball me here from my Ferrothorn. So this is basically a good game right here, unless I can somehow manage to pull something out of my rear end. Like getting that Icy Wind right before going down would have been great, but I couldn't get there. Ferrothorn doesn't have the energy to keep up and get two Power Whips off against this thing, so I'm unfortunately going to have to take the L here. My opponent could easily catch, and that's kind of what I was expecting them to do too, as I was trying to catch, and I keep yawning under my speech, and I apologize for that. It's like 11:30 and I'm trying to record a video and get it out. But anyway, unfortunately not going to win that one because of the just the opponent. That's the Trevenant leads are really nasty for this team. So Abomasnow lead goes straight to Seaking. We're doing super effective damage with the poison damage, so they're going to have to come out, swap out, and they come in with a Quillfish. My opponent tries to call, I think they tried to call the Icy Wind there, and unfortunately they weren't able to make it. Or they weren't able to call it correctly, and they go for an Aqua Tail, and I'm like, I guess they didn't make it to the Sludge Wave either. Or they're running Ice Beam. Oh my goodness. I need to stop recording so late at night, y'all. Anyway, so the Tentacruel is going to come in now, the one that they probably meant to bring in the first place. And they're going to take super effective damage from the Drillhorn, and this is what I was talking about. Seaking has coverage for so much of this meta that it's actually ridiculous. Look, now I have my Ferrothorn and my Tentacruel at full HP, and my Ferrothorn, or my Tentacruel comes in on the Abomasnow. My opponent's like, nah, I'm good. I can't. I think they meant to come in with the Tentacruel, but I mean, it's still the same deal. And then my Tentacruel would have kind of rolled the rest of the team anyway, which is what the strength of this team is. It's using Seaking to really bring out that hard counter to Tentacruel, because it's got most of the same pressure, honestly, with the poison jab. It just doesn't have a water move, which it really doesn't need. Between Icy Wind and Drill Run, these two moves basically offer me coverage to hit just about everything for neutral. Now, they do get me with a Hurricane, and I am not, unfortunately, able to get to another move. I was hoping that was going to be a Weather Ball bait. I really didn't want to give up my shield here, though, because it's going to allow my Ferrothorn to get a move on, or get a farm down. My opponent actually swaps out right away, which now I'm stuck in here. I should have waited out the switch clock. I was kind of hoping to be able to farm them down beforehand, but I'm going to go straight for Flash Cannon here. I'm not going to bait. I'm going to see if I can get him off guard with the Flash Cannon. Opponent calls the Flash Cannon. I'm going to come in now with Tentacruel, and I'm up a shield. For the most part, I should have a pretty easy time here. Excuse me, with getting every bit of energy that I can here before this Abomasnow swaps out into whatever they've got in the back to counter the Tentacruel, which doesn't seem like they have much. I mean, maybe they have a Tentacruel of their own back there that they're waiting to bring in. I'm not sure, but I'm able to farm down before they can get to another move, which is really good for me because now I know what I've got in the back, and they've got a Weezing. And I should easily be able to handle this Weezing. My opponent decides not to bring in their other Pokemon to handle my Tentacruel because it has, like, no HP. But it's gonna move, but I'm pretty sure that's just a Weather Ball, so I'm just gonna tank it here. My win condition at this point, I think I'm gonna try and land a Flash Cannon onto the onto the Weezing here. I think that's gonna be my plan. My opponent is gonna go and no shield that, but I basically put them in a corner here now by them calling that bait. They now have to shield the Scald or they lose. So I then come in with my Ferrothorn and I'm gonna go for the Flash Cannon. My opponent here definitely going to bait me, but unfortunately I'm too much of a dingus to realize it, and now they're going to be able to get to the overheat. So instead I opt to go for the Power Whip, which, because their defenses are lowered, actually does enough damage to take them out. And thankfully, because I recognize that, that's going to allow me to take the win. Otherwise they were going to get to the overheat before I was able to get to the Flash Cannon. So we've got a Pelipper lead in the next game. This is not super great for Ferrothorn. I would like to come back in with energy, so I'm going to actually swap in my Seaking here right away, knowing that they have to basically get to a Hurricane to do damage to Seaking, which is a good opportunity for me to get myself out and get some energy on the next Pokemon that comes in, or do a ton of damage with the poison jabs. Now, I don't know if I've been undercharged on or what, but usually that leaves me with a sliver of HP, so either way, though, what we've done is we've baited out the Ferrothorn successfully, and I also find out that I lose CMP in this one. So basically, Seaking has done its job. It's put a debuff on the Ferrothorn, and it's allowed my Ferrothorn to come in and abuse it for energy, which is what I do in this situation, right? Now I'm going to farm all the way up to 100 energy and just throw a Power Whip. My opponent's not going to shield this. The better option for my opponent probably would be to try and swap here, but I don't know what they would swap into, to be honest. I mean, yeah, you could swap in your Pelipper to a loaded Ferrothorn. Probably not going to go as well as you'd think it would. But essentially, this is going to allow me to have almost 100 energy when this matchup is over and allow me to get to a Power Whip here to force a shield off of my opponent. They're definitely going to go for a Hurricane here, probably. Maybe. 100%. Nothing. I think it's a Hurricane because there's no way, right? But they go for the Weather Ball, and at this point, I'm like, you want to go for another Weather Ball? Be my guest. So they go for the Hurricane. That sucks a lot. So I'm going to come with my Tentacruel now, and my opponent's probably going to have an answer to it in the back, but I am going to just continue to farm, shield and farm down as the game here. And now that I know that they have thrown the Hurricane, that's all their energy, whatever they've got in the back, if I can get through it with Tentacruel, somehow, some way, which because it's Galarian Weezing, I actually have a shot of doing, all I have to do is go for the Acid Spray here, potentially get a shield, and then I can literally just farm down the Pelipper once it comes back in because it's so low. My opponent's only going to be able to get to one move here, I think, and that's probably just going to be the Brutal Swing. I don't think they can get to another one. Yeah, they definitely get to another one. Okay, never mind. I'm not counting while I'm narrating, so forgive me. The Brutal Swing is going to come through, but not going to do enough damage, and I can get to this Acid Spray, or the Scald is rather what I'm going to try to do now. In hindsight, looking at this game back, I definitely should have lost this. Unless I survived that with like 1 HP. It was hard to tell. I think I may have survived with like 1 HP. But that looked so close that I wasn't sure. But anyway, so here is a Roserade in the lead. And this thing absolutely core breaks my team to a T. This is a Weather Ball, for sure. No, it's a Leaf Storm, so that's a good shield on my part, and it's a CMP, which is really nice. I threatened this Roserade shield by forcing them to, you know, basically choose you either lose your Roserade or you don't. And then my opponent brings in an Empoleon, which is a very interesting choice here. I'm going to make sure I throw this Drill Run here with good timing, because I really want to make sure that I can either force them to shield, which I do not get the shield, but I get huge damage off the Empoleon. And this is actually a perfect farm range for Ferrothorn to come in and just all the way, just bullet seed it all the way down. I don't even care if I have to take a Drill Run in the process, which I will, or a Drill Peck. This is going to do more than enough energy for me to be able to make a huge impact in the matchup that follows, because it's still just Roserade, but that allows me now to get to a Flash Cannon, and I'm going to threaten to either KO them or take a shield, and they decide not to shield, and there's a Wall Rain in the back, which means this is a pretty easy win for me. I try to catch the Power Whip there, or not the Power Whip, but try to catch the Icicle Spear here on my Tentacruel, but I fail, and my opponent tries to bait me, and then they realize it's over when they've... the Earthquake doesn't even KO from that range, especially an on-Shadow Wall range, so even if it was an Earthquake, I still would have been fine here. Oh, this is rough. So, Galarian Weezing, yeah, we like to swap into the Seaking, and then they counter with Ferrothorn, and you're like, alright, I just lose now. This is rough. This is really rough, because I'm basically doing what I need to do in getting my Tentacruel basically free up. Oh, excuse me, here we go again. We get the Tentacruel is freed up for the end game here, but that doesn't get rid of the fact that there's still a Galarian Weezing ready to overheat my entire Ferrothorn out of existence, which is now what I'm going to try to do here. Is I'm going to basically try to, once again, that I've gotten this Ferrothorn out and it's got me her shot. I'm going to try my best to abuse this thing for energy, launch a Power Whip when I've got 100 energy, and then just go. And try to get the Flash Cannon off against the Weezing to force the first shield, but my opponent has Mirror Shot, which is obnoxiously spammy, doing absolutely no damage, and I don't even think I got an attack drop off of that. But it's still, you know, it's just a bit of an annoying thing here. But anyway, I'm going to go with the Weezing is going to come in, and I thought they were going to go for an Overheat, but they're running Sludge. Not sure why. I don't really know what matchup the Sludge will get you that Overheat doesn't already get you. And my opponent comes in with an Empoleon, and I'm kind of screwed here. I'm not going to get a shield out of this Empoleon. They're just going to use it to get rid of as much of my Tentacruel as they can. So I'm kind of hoping for another situation like we had in that last game a while back when we Power Whipped the Weezing. Kind of hoping to see if I can set myself up for something like that. Now, I doubt it. This looks really bad. This is one of the hardest counters to Tentacruel in this meta, and the only reason that I possibly could have won that and I can win this matchup is because of the squishiness of Empoleon in the Great League and the fact that Acid Spray does enough to make those poison jabs, even though double resisted still do something. So I need to bait here. And my opponent, I'm like, you're either going to bait? Nope, they don't. They just clean take me out. Well played to my opponent. My win condition was calling them baiting. That was it. But they didn't need to. They could just go straight for it. So here's a great lead. Lantern. And then you get Seaking. And this is terrible. Trainers, let me tell you why. I'm pretty sure that if this game is the one I'm thinking of, but in any case, so my memory is going off me. Yep, there it is. Okay, no, it's the next game. I think it's the next game. So yeah, no, Abomasnow just gets completely railed by Icy Wind and Poison Jab, and then I take Switch, and I have plenty of HP left to just run through this Lantern. I will absolutely put down both shields in that matchup. Even if my opponent baits twice, they cannot survive that many Poison Jabs. Now, the reason why you caught me stuttering in a bit there, you're going to see in the next game, I for a second thought it was a game early. Also, I've seen a lot of Lanterns bait there. Y'all crazy. Go for the Thunderbolt. Otherwise, I'm going to get multiple drill runs off. You're just doing yourselves a lack of a favor by trying to bait there. But anyway, so basically one of the hardest counters to the Mawile in this meta is the Tentacruel. And thankfully, because I'm able to win Switch, my opponent gets their Mawile lined up against me. And well, look at the rest of their squad here. It's Lantern, right? Lantern, and then you've got Mawile, and you've got Abomasnow. Now, I think that in my theory craft, I think Abomasnow and Mawile makes a very good backline. Lantern works just as well, I guess, for the lead. So, I mean, I think it was a good team. But another hard counter lead in my favor here. So the opponent comes in with an Abomasnow, and I immediately counter swap in my Tentacruel, going for the play here. Now, I no shield this because I'm like, okay, this is an energy ball, I live it. If it's a weather ball, awesome. And then we lag, and I don't have any idea who has how much energy. So I'm like, that was way too quick. There's no way. No, energy ball. I had that in the bag, but thank you, Niantic and server lag. And speaking of Niantic, you may notice the Heroes Niantic, which I probably should have mentioned at the first part of this video. But guys, it's atrocious what they're doing to the players right now. Please continue on social media to bolster our voice against this whole, you know, it's not even just about the remote raids at this point. It's about the decision making and the terrible communication or lack thereof that we get from this company. And we as players that pay them to play this game deserve to be heard and respected, and at least feel that way. I know that there are people at Niantic who are listening, and I know that there are people who want to do right. I would like to be clear, almost the entirety of their dev team wants to do right by us. But the upper management is the one that's doing all of this decision making. And in this matchup, I completely called the baits, and it was beautiful. That was the only way I come back from this terrible lag-infested matchup, that I couldn't count the moves on my opponent, and somehow I make it happen. Now, my Seaking gets to come in and get to this drill run against this person's Tentacruel if I can. And we're going to get there. We win CMP because Seaking is a boss. Anyway, don't stop playing. Don't stop the Heroes Niantic stuff, guys. Keep it going. Anyway, so that's gonna be the last battle. Once again, gonna shout out my patron supporters, the most beautiful group of people on this planet that I have the absolute honor of helping manage through the season, and they have been running this team, as well as the one that you're gonna see tomorrow that came from House Stark. Both teams got such great shining runs from my patron group, and you all would have known about those teams well in advance, probably 4 or 5 days ago at this point, if you were in the patron Discord. So hit us up in the description. There's a patron link, you can check it out. Sub to the Discord. Great place to be, great place to learn, great place to just exist. It's the best PvP server, in my opinion, in the whole entire community. So join it. And then if you're looking for coaching, you can find me on Metafy, and the link in Metafy is in the description. And that is going to be all for me for today. Catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.